Guys, my very own Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 is set to be delivered tomorrow, July the 23rd. But I think we need to take one last retrospective look at the Galaxy Z Fold 6. I think a lot of you by now know that I put my SIM back in my Z Fold 6 about 2 weeks ago in order to kind of build up a sense of context. This dog has an uncanny ability to start drinking water as soon as I start filming. Are you done? Truth be told, the last time I really spent significant time using this phone as my primary phone was all the way back at the end of April when I posted my long-term review. And I wanted to kind of refresh my memory so that when I got the Z Fold 7, I would really be able to tell you how big of an improvement is it. And so what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about 5 things that I identified that to me are probably the most important things about the Z Fold 6 that I'm looking forward to seeing potential changes with on the Z Fold 7. And we're going to start off with the camera performance. I've talked about this camera so much over the last year, and broadly speaking, it is absolutely fine. But using it for the last 2 weeks, there are a handful of things that I have noticed that have driven me a little bit crazy, and I'm really hoping to see addressed. So the first one, and yes, this is an excellent photo, is the fact that in lower light, you do end up with a bit more noise and grain than I would like to see. If we zoom in on Jet's very funny face, this was not a super well lit scenario, and you can see here it really kind of suffered. It is a very noisy and grainy photo, especially down here. You can see Rose sort of perplexed staring at Jet. Very, very noisy, very, very grainy. Now, of course, when you're out in some nice lighting, it actually does deliver really, really solid looking shots. The colors that Samsung kind of does with their photos, they really look at this point very similar to what I might adjust my photos to look like. I feel like they really nail that a lot of the time, but in lower light, it's a little hit or miss. And you have similar problems when it comes to video in lower light. I was using this phone to shoot some B-roll over the last couple of weeks, and I'm just basically filming another phone, and it would look a little bit grainy, and sometimes the focus was kind of hunting a little bit, especially if I was like trying to film the crease on a folding phone. It really, really struggled to do that, and I wind up having to just grab my S25 Ultra, which can grab focus and look a lot better, look a lot less grainy. Again, the camera is not bad, but it just has a few of these little sort of fit and finish polish issues, and I'm hoping to switch to the new 200 megapixel sensor that is 44% larger. That's the part I'm actually really excited about. I'm hoping that that makes a big difference. If we can get anywhere into the ballpark of my S25 Ultra, I don't think it's the same 200 megapixel sensor, but it is a similar sensor. I think that could be a really, really big upgrade. Something else that I noticed that I actually talked about quite a bit in my initial review coverage is that, yes, this screen is more narrow than a normal screen. If you compare it to my Pixel 9 Pro Fold, you can see that there is still a fairly substantial difference there. But it's actually close enough for me that it really doesn't get in the way. It's not something that in my day-to-day use I think about, wow, this thing is just weirdly narrow. It's nothing like it was with like the Z Fold 4 or something like that, which was even more narrow than that. It's hard to tell with the screen off, but trust me, that was even more narrow than the Fold 6. They've gotten it to where it's pretty reasonably close. But of course, with the Fold 7, it is getting wider. I actually just got my D-brand leather skin delivered in the mail just the other day. You can kind of see there. It's not like a huge difference, but it is definitely getting wider. It's also getting taller. But one thing that I did notice was that the inner screen did kind of bother me a little bit more. I am really used to having these very wide inner screens, and when you compare this to the Pixel 9 Pro Fold, or you compare it to the Oppo Find N5, it does seem very narrow. And it just so happens that if your cover display is getting wider and then you open that up, the inner display is going to be even wider than that. So that's something that I'm really interested to see. How do I feel about that wider inner display? As someone who does a lot of split screen multitasking, I think what you tend to find is that when you have that wider inner screen, you end up with just a little bit of a better experience. There's just more room to actually do that multitasking. So that again is something that I'm really looking forward to. Something else that I could not help but notice after using this phone for several days at a time, when I would then put it down and maybe for a video or whatever it might be, I would pick up my Pixel 9 Pro Fold or I would pick up my Oppo Find N5, I would immediately just kind of think to myself, wow, these both feel quite a bit thinner, especially the Find N5, and especially the Find N5 feels quite a bit lighter as well. The Z Fold 6, by comparison, feels a little bit brickish. It feels a bit like a brick in your pocket. And don't get me wrong, it's a lot thinner and lighter than they used to be. But when you compare it to something that's sort of riding the bleeding edge, like the Find N5, it does feel a bit dated. Now, the good news is the Z Fold 7 should alleviate all of that. It should be basically as thick as the Find N5 and actually lighter, only 215 grams. So as you use this thing, it's one of these things that you adapt to the thickness and the weight really quickly, and it's not going to bother you after just a couple of days, okay? It's lighter than the Pixel 9 Pro Fold is, so it's not going to bother you. But when you pick up a phone, a folding phone that's a lot thinner and a lot lighter, you will have that reaction of like, oh, that's actually quite nice, and I kind of want to have that. And the good news is you're gonna have that. Something else that really stood out to me is One UI. I know a lot of people kind of were bummed out about One UI 7. There were some changes made that some people didn't necessarily like, but I like One UI 7 quite a bit. To me, it just feels like a very polished, very intuitive, very mature and thoughtful version of Android. It has so many little subtle touches, I think, that improve the experience. I'll give you one example that's just kind of been on my mind here lately. We'll just pull up a video here on YouTube. What we're going to do is we're going to quickly take a screenshot. And down here at the bottom, this thing pops up where you can kind of do whatever you need to do with this. I'm going to hit the crop button. And what you're going to see is, you see how there's this little thing highlighting the video itself because it's assuming, hey, you're probably trying to screenshot that part of your screen. And it makes that really, really easy. If you grab your little handles, it's going to snap automatically to that. It's already kind of getting rid of the status bar. It just makes that so simple. And I think that that is emblematic of One UI in general. It just feels like they've thought of everything. There are so many features that you may not even remember are there. Here's AI Select, which you can use. It's almost like Circle to Search, but a little bit different. You can use it to select something, Drawing Assist, Generative Edit. You can pin this, you can copy it, send it later. There's so many things that One UI can do. It's crazy. Right there from YouTube, slide it out, AI select the thing. You've got your generative edit. We're going to apply an AI thing. We're turning Cam Ward here into a 3D cartoon, all right there in like 2 seconds. You've got your new little taskbar down there that pops up when you need it and goes away when you don't need it. Your app drawer is right there as well. It has this sort of nice frosted glass look to it as well, the taskbar does, which I think actually looks quite nice. The animations are smooth. I think it looks pretty good in general. I don't think it looks quite as good as Material 3 Expressive, which I think just looks phenomenal. But overall, I think it's solid. And it's worth pointing out that while Pixel users are getting more and more excited about the prospect of having a desktop mode when they plug their phone into an external monitor, One UI has had that for years, and it is in a far more complete state than anything Google has presented so far. And of course, the Z Fold 7 is going to be running One UI 8, which is going to add even more things to an already feature complete, really feature overflowing operating system. And the last thing I'll quickly touch on is the battery life. My experience over the last couple of weeks has been fine. It does not have phenomenal battery life, but it gets me through the day just fine. You can see here, it's 10 o'clock. I've got about 15 and a half hours left. I'm at 84%, and I've had about an hour of screen on time so far, which is really not too bad at all. Now, I will give you one big caveat. I think much like most people on planet Earth in 2025, no matter where I am, there is probably a way to charge my phone. Here at my desk, there's a charger. There's actually two chargers. If I'm in my living room, there's a charger. If I'm in my car, there's a charger. If I'm in bed, there's a charger. So yes, I will tell you that I could get through the day without charging this phone at all. Now, by the end of the day, I would probably be on fumes. Maybe I got around 6 hours of active screen on time use. My usage, that doesn't mean the way you use your phone is going to be the same, because if you did 6 hours of Genshin Impact, that's going to be very different than what I do. So we have to kind of take this with a pinch of salt. But for my use, I could get through the full day just fine. But it's also really easy for me to be sitting here and think, I'm a little bit low. I'll just kind of put it on the charger and let it charge a little bit, right? Like, that's not hard at all. So the battery life is not the Oppo Find N5, and it doesn't charge as fast as the Oppo Find N5. And those are both things I wish Samsung could find a way in their heart of hearts to improve, but they're not really going to be doing that. As long as the Fold 7, though, doesn't get worse than the Fold 6, I think I'm going to be absolutely fine. For the first maybe 2 or 3 days, there was a little bit of battery anxiety, as that number was lower than I was used to it being at certain times when I was using my Oppo phone. But after that, I got used to it, realized it's not a problem. I can plug it in if I need to, and I probably don't even need to, if I'm being honest. So again, battery is fine. Honestly, using the Z Fold 6 for the last couple of weeks has done nothing but made me more excited for the Galaxy Z Fold 7, because I just keep thinking, this is a really solid phone, and if it was just a little thinner and a little lighter and a little wider, it would absolutely sing, and that's what I should be unboxing tomorrow. So many of you have watched so many videos talking about this phone, hundreds of thousands of views, speculating about the rumors, talking about what rumors ended up being right, what rumors ended up being wrong, disappointing everyone with the S Pen news. It has been an absolute blast covering this phone, and it's finally almost here, and I think we are all very excited for what comes next. Really digging into this device and reviewing it and comparing it to other phones, the multitasking, the camera, the battery, the performance, all of that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hit that subscribe button before you go so you don't miss out on what comes next. I'll see you on that next video, which should be an unboxing and first impressions. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.